Ousmane Sonko, a name that rings with defiance and passion in the political landscape of Senegal, was born on a mid-July day in 1974, in the city of Thiès. His journey, rooted in humble beginnings, was to lead him onto a path less traveled, one paved with political activism and unwavering dedication to public service. As a young man, Sonko's thirst for knowledge took him to the halls of the prestigious Cheikh Anta Diop University in Dakar. Here he delved into the intricacies of public administration, later broadening his academic horizon with a master's degree in international economic law and management. These years shaped Sonko, not just as a student but as an individual with a keen understanding of the socio-economic dynamics at play in his nation. With a strong educational background, Sonko was primed for a career in government service. Sonko's professional journey began in the heart of the Senegalese government, working as a tax inspector. The corridors of power were not foreign to him, but neither were the complexities of governance. The labyrinth of public administration was his playground, where he learned the ins and outs of tax law and fiscal policies. As a public servant, Sonko was meticulous and disciplined, earning the respect of his colleagues and superiors alike. His dedication and acumen did not go unnoticed. Over time, he ascended the ranks, eventually becoming the head of the Senegalese Tax and Customs Department in the region of Casamance. This was a significant accomplishment, a testament to his hard work and commitment to public service. But as Sonko climbed the bureaucratic ladder, he also started to see the cracks in the system. He witnessed the pervasive corruption, the economic inequalities, and the mismanagement of public funds. What he saw was a stark contrast to the ideals he had about governance and public service. This was a turning point in his career, a moment that sparked a transformation from a public servant to a vocal critic. Sonko's disillusionment with the government's policies grew as he observed the widening gap between the rich and the poor, the rampant corruption, and the blatant disregard for the welfare of the people. He saw a system that was in dire need of reform, a government that was falling short of its responsibilities. But Sonko was not one to sit back and watch. He was a man of action, a man who believed in the power of change. His growing concerns about the government's policies fueled a desire within him to challenge the status quo, to speak out against corruption, and to advocate for social justice and economic reforms. As his disillusionment grew, so did his conviction to bring about change, and so he ventured into the tumultuous world of politics, driven by a desire to make a difference. As Sonko's concerns grew, so did his desire to challenge the status quo. In 2014, Sonko took a bold step, founding the Patriotic Salvation Movement, PASTEF. This was not just a political party, but a call to arms for those who sought a better Senegal. It was a vessel for the people's voice, a way to amplify their demands for a fair and just society. PASTEF was built upon a trinity of principles: social justice, anti-corruption, and economic reforms. Sonko envisioned a Senegal where every citizen, regardless of their social status or wealth, would get a fair share of the nation's prosperity. He dreamed of a country where the government served the people, not the other way around. Social justice was the heart of PASTEF's ideology, with Sonko believing that every Senegalese citizen deserved an equal opportunity to thrive. He saw a nation where wealth was not concentrated in the hands of a few but distributed to ensure the welfare of many. Anti-corruption was the backbone of PASTEF. For Sonko, a clean government was the first step towards a prosperous nation. He wanted to root out the corruption that had seeped into the political system, to restore faith in the government and its institutions. Economic reform was the lifeblood of PASTEF. Sonko believed that for Senegal to truly prosper, it needed a robust and fair economic system, a system that promoted growth, but not at the expense of the people or the environment. PASTEF would become the platform for Sonko's political activism and his challenge to governmental corruption. Sonko's outspokenness was not without consequence. With his increasing criticism of the government, he found himself in the eye of a storm, facing numerous controversies and legal battles. His bold stance on corruption, economic inequality, and mismanagement of public funds made him a thorn in the side of the establishment. One of the most significant turning points in Sonko's career was in 2017. He was dismissed from his position as a tax inspector, a move he claimed was politically motivated. The dismissal came as a shock to many, but Sonko remained undeterred. He stood firm in his belief that transparency and accountability in governance were paramount. and that his dismissal was an attempt to silence his criticism. But that wasn't the end of his challenges. Sonko found himself on the receiving end of multiple accusations and legal charges. These ranged from defamation to public order offenses. His supporters, however, stood by him. They argued that these charges were nothing more than attempts to quash his voice and stymie his political activism. They saw these accusations as a clear sign of the establishment feeling threatened by Sonko's growing influence and his unyielding commitment to political reform. Yet despite facing these considerable obstacles, Sonko remained resolute. He continued his fight for transparency, accountability, and social justice in Senegal's political landscape. He refused to back down, even when faced with the prospect of legal repercussions. For Sonko, the quest for a fair and just society was worth any personal sacrifice. In the midst of these controversies and legal battles, something unexpected happened. Sonko's popularity began to rise. His unwavering commitment to his principles and his refusal to be silenced resonated with the people. They saw in him a leader who was willing to take on the establishment, to speak truth to power, to fight for the rights of the marginalized. Despite these obstacles, Sonko's popularity only seemed to grow. His story is a testament to the power of conviction and the importance of standing up for what you believe in, even when faced with daunting challenges. It's a story of resilience, of determination, and of the unyielding belief in the possibility of change. Sonko's message resonated with those disillusioned with the traditional political establishment, especially the youth. A fresh voice in the political landscape, Sonko tapped into a wellspring of frustration and desire for change. His campaign messages, centered around combating corruption, improving social welfare, and empowering the marginalized, struck a chord with many Senegalese citizens. He was not just a politician, he was seen as a beacon of hope. A hope for a Senegal where the government serves its people, where social justice prevails, and where the youth can dream of a brighter future. His words incited a sense of empowerment among the disenfranchised, the neglected, and the unheard. Sonko's popularity soared. He was not just appealing to a niche group, but a broad spectrum of society. Young voters in particular were drawn to his message. They saw in Sonko a leader who understood their struggles, who fought for their rights, who dared to challenge the status quo. The marginalized communities, too, found a champion in Sonko. Here was a man who didn't just pay lip service to their plights, but actively sought to address them. His advocacy for economic reforms and social justice was not just campaign rhetoric, it was a commitment. Sonko's influence was undeniable, and it would soon be put to the test in the presidential race. In the 2019 Senegalese presidential election, Sonko emerged as a strong contender. His campaign, representing the Patriotic Salvation Movement, or PASTEF, resonated with many, especially the young and those disenchanted with the traditional political establishment. Sonko's platform shone a spotlight on corruption, social welfare, and the empowerment of youth and marginalized communities, themes which had been largely overlooked in Senegalese politics. His bid for the presidency was a clear indication of a growing desire for change in Senegal, a country eager for transparency, accountability, and social justice. The support Sonko garnered was significant, even though he didn't clinch the presidency. His candidacy marked a pivotal moment in Senegalese politics, one that underscored the public's demand for a new kind of leadership. Although he didn't win, Sonko's political journey was far from over. Sonko remains a prominent figure in Senegalese politics, continuing to advocate for transparency, good governance, and economic reforms. With his unwavering commitment to these ideals, he is consistently in the forefront, challenging the status quo and pushing for meaningful change. His role in the opposition is not simply about being a contrarian, but about holding the government accountable and ensuring that the voices of citizens are not drowned out by the clatter of political machinations. He utilizes his platform to amplify the concerns of the marginalized, the young, the disenfranchised, those who often find themselves at the periphery of political discourse. His leadership style is defined by his tenacity and his refusal to be silenced, despite the controversies and legal battles he has faced. His story is one of resilience, of persistence in the face of adversity. Ousmane Sonko's story is a testament to the power of political activism and the call for change in Senegalese politics.